iTunes U is organized really around 4 main tabs. You have, I think I need to point here, if you could just follow me here, because then I don't have to go over there. It has an information tab, which really allows you to give a course outline of what they are supposed to learn, what the various components of the course and so forth. There is a posting tab, which allows you to look at the discussions that go on in this course. There's a notes, which is a very highly customizable feature. That means to say to each user, the person will use this as a notebook and take notes. And I'll show you some of the notes that can be done. And of course, the materials tab, where you have all the materials for the course. So under the information tab, you will see that it provides an overview, instructor, who is there. You can email the instructor, etc. The outline of the course, what are the main components of the course, and very importantly, I put in the section, how do I use this course? Because of the lack of structure, I felt that there was a need to give a bit more information. So I did that. This is the next tab is on the posts. Really, it shows you the types of the postings that were. There are some new postings over there. And for you to be able to communicate with your students, the notes, I will go into that in a very short while to show you how the notes are used. But these are basically the materials. Now, why do I say I'm not happy? When you first go in, if you show all the materials, they're all lumped together, whether they are videos, audios, documents, photographs, images. It doesn't make head or tail. But if you start clicking on the audio, you realize that you can organize the sequence of the audiobook for them. You can organize the videos, the iBooks that they can download and use. For example, the unfortunate thing about Singapore is that the Singapore bookstore can only allow you to download iBooks that are in public domain. So they are about 200 years old. But if I just show you the iBooks, I could just open one of the books. If you go to the US store, however, okay, just go back to this library. You can have a lot more books. Of course, I also downloaded 101 Best Jokes, for example. There are a lot of textbooks that are written, for example, on climate issues, but these are only in the US bookstore. So we have to wait for the time to come when the Singapore bookstore also starts selling these textbooks, for example. Okay, so books, documents that I have. You can also have related applications. So because this is a unit on wind, for example, people can download the application on wind scales, the Beaufort wind scale of how fast or slow it is. There are also some weather apps that I've included in this package for people to use. Of course, the images, because geography requires a lot of imagery, and these are the images, and a lot of YouTube links that they could go to and look at the various processes that are there. So now I'll jump back to the notes to show you what some of the things you could do with it. So let me go to all the notes. They're divided to course notes that you write down on your own. So you could add a new note. So excuse me. You could add a new note and type this as a new note. And then it goes in there. So as a user, I could add these course notes on my own. Not very useful unless it's contextualized. Then in terms of the audio notes, for example, these are some of the notes that I took earlier. What can I do with these notes? So if I was viewing the video, I could take notes while I was in the video. Okay? After that, I can then go back to look at some of the notes that I've taken. So for example, why does the air sing at 30 degrees north-south? Why specifically 30? What is stability? I took this note just now while viewing my video. So I click on it. I can go back to the video. It will actually go back to the point in time south where it will sync. Yep, that's okay. I think that's fine. Just to show you that there's sound. I go back again. So I show you another note. So for example, in this note, why does it start at the equator? That's the note that I took, or the kid can take, the student can take. So when you look at the video, this sinking air results in a condition of stability, resulting in the formation of deserts. That's my own voice, sorry. So I created that video, put on there, and then I explained the global circulation model. So you could actually type in notes along the way as you use it. Okay, apart from audio notes, you could also have book notes. So for example, this book that was downloaded from iBooks Singapore version, which is a free book. It's Weather and Folklore of Peter's Birth. It's by this person called Charles Dack. And if you click on the notes, for example, this is just to show you the ability. I said another reference to weather, but this time it's about crop growth. And you can go back into the book, tab here. It opens that book to the section. It closes it. It opens the book that was used. And this is a section that I highlighted. So if I want to make another note, I could go here, for example, highlight it, and I'm going to make a note. And I'll say that this is another reference. And then I go, OK. I can go back. And I go back to all my notes. You can see it right at the top. So that was a new note I made. So I could study, and then I could use the notes along the way. Similarly, in the video, I could go to this video again. I can play. These trade winds will move from the north to the south. Here, so I wonder why is it north to the south. So I will add a note at this point and say, why is it moving? Is it showing there? And you type what you need to, and when you're done, it will appear as a new note at the top. Okay, so this is generally the main features of using iTunes U for the student. Some of the things that can be done I probably haven't explored anyway. So that's my very quick 15-minute sharing. And now for Q&A before we move on to Pek Mee showing you how to create the course materials.
What might you have done differently?
What might I have done differently? I probably would convert some of the interactive SWF files into HTML5 files and then host them on a website and then put them as an external link. But then that doesn't tap into the feature of taking notes inside iTunes U. So what I really want to use the iTunes U for is that they could take note, refer, come back and forth. So right now you could only do it for audio, video, and books. Not very, broad yet. So I'd like to have interactive elements. So in my head, I would imagine, for example, clicking on a button in the HTML5 setting, and then the animation for one of the the cycles in the wind system comes on, pause, and then I can write some notes about it, and it goes back into this folder, but can't be done now. So right now I can only put a video, pause the video and do that, but it's not very interactive. Some interactive things, for example, could be I could drag things around so that the wind can change direction, that sort of stuff. Can't be done.
Okay. So, I mean, are you then saying that you might want to somehow engage the individual learner? I mean, you get them to think more deeply, to interact more deeply with the content, or just now you mentioned something along the lines of getting them to somehow collaborate in some way. I mean, what?
In terms of the pedagogy, I really haven't given it deep thought, honestly. So what I've done is I've engaged the individual, right? Like what you say. So what are the affordances of this particular tool? This tool allows you to take notes, to be able to go back and forth, not synchronous, not sequentially, but you're able to go through different sections that you need to. So that's what I have done at this point in time. But getting them to be able to collaborate is something that I haven't thought about. For example, like I could also phrase the whole thing as a problem-based learning thing, which is something I didn't think about. The reason being that this is one topic that it's really early on in the course that I wanted them to know the physics of the atmosphere. Of course, if it is a different topic such as, why is it, Superstorm Sandy happen, that would be further on in the course. So of course, I could also do it the other way around, but that's not how the course was sequenced. Am I answering your question? Yeah.
What's the feedback been like so far, other than the folks who didn't have iOS?
Not much feedback, really. The problem was that I taught them only for a very short time. It's a shared course. I do a third, and my colleague does 2/3 of the course. So I haven't been able to come down to the level and ask. I was thinking of doing a survey, but I stopped myself because I would need to then clear ethics with NTU before I do that. So I haven't done that.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just being strategic with my time.
Could you please elaborate more on the multimodal aspects?
Well, as you can see, you can have videos, audios, and text. So the same thing can be represented in many forms. So for example, you could listen to a kind of audiobook version of each of these 4 sections, or you could see a image version and read it off. So I have it both ways. I could put it as a video as well, but I didn't think that was necessary. It's another talking head. Because video should only be used, I feel, in this particular unit to show the processes, because that's what videos can do. So
Does
if
it have potential for online assessment?
you have to use a third-party app.
In this course,
Yeah.
you linked it to Blackboard.
Yeah.
To Blackboard.
So they have to do the evaluation on Blackboard. Something it can't be done yet. Yeah.
Actually, you can, but in this context, the grades may be sensitive, or you want it for a course.
Yeah, all you get is just,
Yeah, you bring it back to your institute's electives, but if it's a bit more open, you want to do something in Google Forms, you can also. But
yeah, but then it will be in Google. Yeah.
In this circumstance, the move is justified.
That's right.
Is there an interaction between you and the students? So do you get emails, notes, requests?
Not really. Not really. It is really taken as something on, and nobody has emailed me so far.
But were you required to do this? You say to 1/3 of the course, right?
No, it's not a requirement.
What? No?
It's not a requirement. I brought this on myself.
Oh, no, I mean, as in, were the student teachers required to complete this sequence within a fixed time? Or
Yes, they were. They were given during that week to read up on it using the courseware materials. And then when they came back, we went on to the next topic, which was talking about monsoons, tropical cyclones, and so forth. So without this prerequisite understanding, then that they won't be able to understand it. Why did I choose this topic? Because this is quite factual. And there's really no value addedness if I lectured about it. So if they read online, they come to class, there's more discussion. Yeah, which is why I chose this topic. The other topic I could have chosen would be the very first lesson on the structure of the atmosphere. It's just very pure factual that, 0 to 10 kilometers is called the troposphere and that kind of thing. But I didn't want to do it for the first lesson because I wanted to have an interaction, face-to-face interaction with the class in the first lecture. Then I went on to do this later. Yeah.
Chang,
Sure.
one question. At the very beginning, you started saying that, why this, why not something else?
Mm-hmm.
So if the interaction is sort of limited, then why not just sort of have a Dropbox folder, shared folder with all the videos and all the images and all the materials?
Okay. Two answers, two quick ones. First one is you have to try to know what you can do with it. And after trying it, yes, I know I'm mildly dissatisfied with some of those features, but it also means that I could now try other features that are available to iTunes. I could think about how best to use it. If I don't try, I'm going to miss, for example, some very useful feature. And that's the second part to the answer. And the useful feature is the notes feature where the kids can actually take their own notes. You can't do that. It's personalized notes to yourself. It's your own learning notes. When you do it in Dropbox, you have got to keep a separate folder, and you don't necessarily have the ability to link it to the actual section of the material that you take a note on, for example, in a video or in a document or in an audio piece. So the power is in that.
Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Can it actually support a CSCL, a collaborative environment, group work and all that?
I think it is how you design your pedagogy. It is not what the technology limits you to. So being open, being flexible means you could really use it for any of those things that you want. But you must understand its limitation and understand its affordances to begin with. Affordances and disaffordances, if there's such a word. Yeah.
Have you checked any of the apps? You mentioned that you looked at a couple of other courses offered by the universities, and you can bring in interactivity by using some apps.
Right.
So were those apps specifically designed for
Okay.
the course, or just sort of existing apps that somebody incorporated into their courses?
Okay. For these apps, they just so happen to be apps developed by people. Okay. Let me elaborate a little bit on my answer. I've looked at some of the courseware that's developed as iTunes U courses by some of the other universities. And short of sounding boastful, those materials are largely didactic and in one single mode of representation. So a lot of it is really just textual material. There will be occasional talking heads. So to some extent, while I'm not satisfied, for example, with the amount of interaction in this, I think at least it has, it targets some degree of differentiation in learner needs. So either you're more audio learner, you're a more visual learner, at least it does that. Some courses that I've seen doesn't even provide an option. So that's a bit flatter. That's one. And therefore, in moving forward, perhaps we can think about developing apps that are specific to the iTunes U. I think iTunes U can be used effectively if you use it together with the iBooks authoring tool that now comes free on the Macintosh, for example, because you can then create interactive books, and you can then place these books within the iTunes U course. You could also create apps that are specific to the course and then put them here. So it works well in synergy, not in its individual form. Yeah.
Apple would love to let you say that.
Just thinking about, I mean, if you can have Android apps, why not? But Apple doesn't allow, you know.
You can just put a URL and link it there. And go to the Google Play Store.
Yeah, but if you're using, for example, an iOS device, you can go to the marketplace and then you can't do anything with that, for example. I don't know if there's an equivalent of iTunes U for the Android platform. They have marketplace apps, but they don't have songs or books or courses, you see. So to some extent, these fellows at Apple have thought about it, you know, a little bit further down the runway than the other platforms, I guess.
Yeah. One more question. So,
Sure.
About the openness of the platform, can you restrict availability?
Yeah.
Only your students can access the
I
materials?
think it is maintained at the NIE level. There is a subscription process, and there is some restriction that you could do, right? Because I have no access to the restriction. I have no control.
But once you already post on NIE iTunes, you will be open. Unless you create your own course, which is privatized. It means you private it to only about 50 students. You only allow 50 students to enroll to your course. That is, there are two options. Either it's a private or public. Later I will show you how to create course.
I was just thinking of, for example, copyright, like our students
Oh,
have
yes.
the literature account, so they can access certain journal articles. And to make their life easier, I might just sort of post a PDF online, so they don't have to sort of jump 2 more steps to get the paper. But if it's open to everywhere in the world, it might breach
Oh no,
copyright.
I think there's actually a third option, which I don't know whether you realize that you actually use here. There's totally open, there's totally closed, which Pek Mee has mentioned. But there's also, you know, like your quiz, yeah, the assessment component. Now that's not available to anyone outside of Blackboard system because you have to sign in to get that. So you can create a very open course, but half of it can still be closed because it's behind the Blackboard. Yeah. So the PDF could be in a shared folder in Dropbox that only they has. It can
That's
be
right.
in Blackboard
Yeah.
folder that only they have.
Yeah.
So they access it through certain
Yeah.
links.
You just have to create the links.
No one else in the world.
Yeah.
No one else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas all the other beefy goodness, the meat that you got about the content that you want to offer the rest of the world for free, everyone can access that. But these other things, yeah, which are might be copyrighted, paid for by the library, some things which you're not sure whether others should see, yeah, you can lock them behind all these other folks.
But you need to spend time. This diagram, for example, took half an hour. Right? You have to spend time. So ensure that your things are copyright free and then before you create. Otherwise, you get in trouble. So this one, for example, I took something from the internet, then I traced on it. I used new globe, then I went into Photoshop, I created new clouds. There isn't one that is exactly this, for example. So you still have to customize it. Then I go into Photoshop to type in all everything all over again.
What I'm saying is, you can find a Creative Commons license globe, then you put the layers that you want on it, then you share it under a similar license.
I know. The globe I used was Creative Commons, but then you still need to spend half an hour. There's one. Then and you have others.
The next time you do it, you spend 15 minutes.
So for example, this one, you have to draw it on your own. So it's time consuming. So yeah. But of course, the most important part is we put NIE's brand name, in the world. Yeah.
Plus, people like us, if we put the cost there, we go through the pain so that others don't have to, and we hope that it gets reciprocated. They go through the pain so that we don't have to.
That's right.
So is that quality control? If it's NIE's name put on the words.
He's the quality control.
So what we do is, I don't think we've been to your AG yet, but when we visited HSSE, we said that you must clear it with your heads. At least let the head know, and the head says okay, because we don't know the content.
That's right.
Yeah, we can assist technically, but content-wise, we want to offer good meat, not bad, about to expire meat.
Yeah. So that's it. Then hand over to Pek Mee.
Thank you.
Thank you.